Indeed, it is a pleasure to be here. I'd like to begin my remarks starting with a comment that Dr. Frazier made this morning. Incidentally, Dr. Frazier, I rode on the plane with you from Vancouver last night, sitting right behind you. Dr. Frazier said in his remarks this morning, I quote, he said that talent does not necessarily have to come from urban areas, but there is a lot of talent that can come from rural areas. I happen to endorse that completely. Secondly, all business formation does not have to happen in urban markets. There are great businesses worth a lot of money whose origin is in rural markets, some of which I'm going to discuss today. My career in rural began at birth. I was born rural. I was raised rural. I was born in Louisiana, raised on the shores of the Mississippi River, and all I knew was an agrarian society, an agrarian culture, and didn't understand all the economics that we talk about these days. I moved to Appalachia 30 years ago after doing a stint with the Fortune 500 and didn't realize that Appalachia was poor and didn't realize that you had to have all these fancy financing gizmos and widgets to start businesses. And so consequently, I came there as a member of the management team of a little tiny entrepreneurial company that we built into something real and hired a lot of people in an area that had high double-digit unemployment. And today that little area is just robust and vibrant as a result of the second and third generation of entrepreneurs that have spun out of that business sorts of things. In addition to that, I formed 3 other businesses that were pretty successful. Again, I didn't realize that you couldn't form good businesses in a rural environment where it was poor. I will tell you that the point here is that starting businesses has a structure to it. Starting businesses has a method to it, whether it be in an urban market or whether it be in a rural market. And it requires the capacity to start those businesses and become involved in those businesses and get a little dirt under your fingernails as these businesses are beginning to develop so that you can guide them along the way, some of which I'm going to discuss. You see this quote here? This is why I say you've got to live where you do your business. Look at this, listen to this quote. And this is a direct quote. I was sitting on the platform in Denver, Colorado with a guy from Wall Street. He said, investors do not treat location within the United States as a distinct factor. Once an opportunity for a deal is presented to an investment banker, a rural location simply means taking a smaller plane or an extra day to travel to the company. Evidence of the declining importance of geography can be seen in the willingness of investment bankers to travel almost anywhere in the world for the right opportunity. I have to tell you that we were required to write our comments, and on the podium following that guy, I completely turned my speech over and wrote a rebuttal to that one statement right there. That is not true. That is not true. People that live in urban centers do not find easy ways to go to rural markets. If there's not someone on the ground there in a rural market to do the deals, they don't get done because there has to be a segue, there has to be a genesis, there has to be someone there on the ground that goes to the board meetings, that prepares to the board for the board meetings, that goes to the larger VC funds and say, listen, why don't you syndicate with us? We'll do all the heavy lifting, and all you have to do is just provide the money kinds of stuff. So this guy was interesting. So I couldn't, I'll tell you what, he looked good though. He looked really good. Community Development Venture Capital, which I think If I had to give credit for the origin of that statement, it would have to go back to a former chief executive officer of Kentucky Highlands Investment Corporation, Kentucky Highlands. Kate asked me, where is Kentucky Highlands? Give me some reference in Kentucky. And I said, Lexington. And I actually am south of Lexington, about 80 miles, over to the eastern part of the state in the Appalachian foothills. Very rich in coal extraction, very poor. Poverty is the hallmark of Appalachia. Let me tell you just a little bit about Kentucky Highlands and its origin. Lyndon Johnson had been elected president, and he was doing a tour and happened to end up in a small community in eastern Kentucky. And he was on a coal miner's shack, and he was absolutely blown away by the poverty that eastern Kentuckians lived in. And he should have been. A president of the United States was standing on a coal miner's shack in Letcher County, and he said, it is not possible for Americans to live this way. And he went back, and there was legislation that was created called the Community Development Corporations, and basically it was a way for local community action agencies to aggregate themselves and create something called a Community Development Corporation. I will tell you that there was money that did come from the U.S. government through departments of the U.S. government for operation of Kentucky Highlands, which back in those days was called Job Start Corporation. That gives you an idea where their mind was. It was called Job Start. And there was also money available for investing activity. Well, I will tell you that Kentucky Highlands in its founding years was a miserable flop. It was not even worth writing about. It was because, and here's what they had the mentality of. They had the mentality of, we're smart. We're going to come from Washington, D.C., and New York City, and Chicago, and other places to you bunch of stupid hillbillies down there, and we're going to help you create some jobs for yourself so you don't have to live in this squalor. Well, the bottom line is they tried to do something with a social emphasis, and that did not work. Along comes a guy in 1974, a guy named Tom Miller that I was telling you about, that said, you know what, we've got this money, we should do something with that. And what we should do is that we should find an equity model to invest this money so that we can invest in the grassroots of entrepreneurship and people that are indigenous to this area so they can build businesses, hire people, and have those people grow and glow as they got older and older. And that's exactly what Kentucky Highlands did, is that they changed to this thing called developmental venture capital. And what are some of these things that we do? Stuff that you know, stuff that you do every day, that they do here in Prince George, in Vancouver, in Saskatchewan, in Toronto, and all these other sorts of places. We invest in equity deals. That's not what this is at all. Let me tell you about equity. Equity is important, and we've developed a practice in equity over the years, and the way we've done that is that we failed sufficient times that we figured it out on how to do it. Equity investing is finding a deal, sifting through a lot of applications, sifting through a lot of deal flow to find a deal that you think can have merit. A management team that is sort of complete, maybe not complete all the way, but sort of complete that has its handle on the majority of the dynamics of the business. And then you, through a lot of legal due diligence and legal document preparation. Of course, we like to prepare documents. That's what we do. We love lawyers to prepare documents so that you have to have a two-wheel cart to roll the things to the closing. But we get all the documents done and signed, and then the day comes that we shove the check across the table. And what we get in turn is not a security interest, but we get a stock certificate represented by our ownership in the company, and we look at a management team that's going to take our investment and make that investment worth something. Something else that we do, I'll put the word packaging, but that truly is a word called syndication. We syndicate a lot of deals. I hate doing deals by myself. I want a lot of people, when I show up at the table, and let me tell you, this is a write-down. This is absolutely, in all the years I've been doing this, when you put the money in, it never just goes straight to the top and everything is rosy thereafter. The day you put the money in, it goes straight down. And there is going to be a lot of clouds that aggregate, and I want a lot of people sitting at the table whenever we have to make decisions. That's why I like to syndicate or create a complex capital structure around a lot of people, multiple equity providers, multiple debt providers, everything that the state has to offer as far as economic incentives are concerned, everything the federal program that exists insofar as debt financing is concerned, equity or incentives and all those kinds of things. Industrial recruitment, I put that down there for a reason, because we don't do that anymore. We're not going to get a General Electric, a GM, an IBM, or a large corporation to build a plant in eastern Kentucky. That just isn't going to happen. And so bottom line is that we long ago realized that industrial recruitment was not exactly the best thing that we should pursue. So much so that we have created something called the Center for Entrepreneurial Growth. I have found that in rural markets, people that don't have access to a local college, a local different schools and consultants and those kinds of things, have an idea, but they don't know how to vet that idea. They don't know how to take that idea and put some dimension to it. They don't know how to develop a business plan, a business strategy. They don't know how to speak the vernacular of financing. A lot of people that are smart, a lot of people with advanced degrees from college just don't know how to start a business. They might have a brilliant idea, but they don't know how to put together a business strategy to articulate to would-be funders or investors how good that business idea really is. And so consequently, we've created the Center for Entrepreneurial Growth to teach them how to put their idea on paper and simplistically present that to the banking community and other would-be investors. The other thing that we're doing is that we're now embarking upon educating communities. I will tell you that the only way that entrepreneurs are going to thrive in a community is that if you make your community entrepreneurial friendly and entrepreneurially prepared. And by that I mean, don't persecute failure, but instead reward success. The last thing that we do is that what makes us, I think, stand out from the rest is that we actively pursue turnarounds. Let me tell you what that is. Does anybody know what a turnaround is? A turnaround is very important. Let me tell you why. If you have people in your business, in your community, that are willing to take all of their chips and put it to the center of the table, all your kids' education money, all the equity that's in your house, your wife's wedding ring, whatever it might take, and bet on it, you need to support those people. Let me talk to you a little bit about developmental venture capital versus traditional venture capital. Developmental venture capital versus traditional venture capital. When you see traditional venture capital, it's high risk, high return. All risk money has the potential to have a high return to it. Developmental venture capital has high risk, but we also have involved in that a double bottom line. And by that, we are in business to make a profit. You cannot be an economic development organization that says, we're just going to give our money away. You cannot be an economic development organization that says, we're going to make loans and we don't care if we get paid back or not. You absolutely have to have a strong business mindset to make money if you're going to be in the economic development business. But at the same time, you want the other things along with that, which is jobs. Not just jobs, but jobs where people have an opportunity to grow from entry level to mid-level to management, etc. As a matter of fact, the model that I've talked about, one of the oldest deals that we did was the earliest we did was in 1972. And that company today is still in existence, making a lot of money. And what's interesting about that is that that investment over these years, these 36 years, has spun off of it dozens of entrepreneurs. People that heretofore were on a multi-generational cycle of welfare transfer payments got jobs, broke that cycle, and saw that you could be successful in your own business, and they today are entrepreneurs.